Hi, this is Sam Pirazzolla with Right Bites TV, and I'm here with Sal Albanese, and Sal has agreed to come on to our show to talk about his campaign and some things that he would like to do as the mayor of Great New York City. Sal, thanks for coming on again, and what can you tell me about your campaign? What do you want to do different than Mayor de Blasio?
Well, first of all, I want to be a full-time mayor. This mayor spends...
Do you take naps?
No, I don't. I take naps, but I don't mind somebody taking a nap in the afternoon, but I do mind, as a 15-minute, 20-minute cat nap is fine. I do mind somebody who shows up to work at 12 o'clock and then takes a nap. I got a real problem with that, and that's what he does. I mean, this guy does not work hard. He doesn't focus on the nuts and bolts of being mayor.
All right, well, let's forget about him. What are you going to do to make my life as a Staten Islander and person who lives in New York City better?
Good question. There are a couple of things I want to focus on. One is how do we address this traffic congestion, which is a disaster in the city? How do we fix our subway system, which is important for the city's future? And I've got proposals on both of those items. First of all, I want to attract the best and the brightest to our government. We have a lot of talented people in the city. De Blasio has not managed to attract good people as commissioners and as deputy commissioners. As a matter of fact, the woman who was in charge of homeless forum left after 6 months. So I think people, there are a tremendous amount of talented managers that I know from my days on the city council, engineers that would come into city government that I would attract. And there are a couple of very specific things that I want to do which will save the city money and put that into services.
What's your top one?
For example, our pension plan. I have a background in finance. Our pension plan in New York City is archaic. The Canadians perform 2% better than we do every single year. The plan is $180 billion, right? $180 billion. 2% of that, think about that, is almost $2 billion. If we performed as well as the Canadians, we would be able to save a significant amount of money because the city has to put money into that plan every year.
No, but once you start talking pensions, everybody gets really nervous. He wants to take away my pension. He wants to make changes.
I don't want to take away anybody's pension. I want to improve it so that the pension system can stay healthy. I want to modernize it. The Canadians have a great plan, and they've done it by hiring top-flight talent. The chief investment officer is paid on an incentivized basis. They do a lot of stuff in-house instead of contracting out to management firms that charge huge fees. As I said, every single year, the Canadians outperform us by 2%. So do the Irish. So do the Norwegians.
I'm sure most people probably do, except for maybe Chicago.
No. Well, actually, New York City is actually, they do fund their plan every year. But that's a major, I know it's kind of, for people it's kind of boring talking about this stuff, but it's so important because it saves the city a huge amount of money. The other area.
How does the pension system fall into our debt in New York City? Like, what percentage of our debt is pensionable?
Well, we last year the city had allocated $1 billion into the plan.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean you could reduce that dramatically if you had a better functioning plan. The other thing I want to do is the unions have their own health and welfare plans. Each one of them have their own local plans, right? What I want to do is combine it into one plan, get them on board, and negotiate with the pharmaceutical companies so that we can bring down the cost of drugs. Drugs are really bankrupting a lot of these health and welfare funds. And if you combine those plans into one and go to Pfizer and say, hey, listen, this cancer drug, if you want a monopoly on it, you got to drop your prices 50%.
So you want to unionize the unions as far as...
Well, I want to bring them together to leverage the cloud to bring down the price of drugs.
It makes sense. You want to buy in bulk.
Exactly. You're a businessman, so you understand that. The other area which I think de Blasio and I disagree on, and a lot of folks disagree with me on, is congestion pricing. I think that we need to address traffic, and by the way, that would reduce the Verrazano bridge by 35%.
So I'll tell you that
the Move New York.
I am not a fan of congestion pricing.
Okay.
I understand the premise behind it, but my problem with congestion pricing is once you put a toll on that bridge, that toll is going to do nothing but go up.
Well, I think one of the things I'd like to do is have a tolling system where and we have the technology for it now, where you toll the bridges based on what time of the day you're going over those bridges. Say if you're traveling at night, the toll's 25 cents during the day, it comes down to 10 cents at night. There's a way to do it, but I just, Sam.
Listen, this is 2017.
We're choking.
Nothing is 25 cents.
Well,
you can't even get a quarter for 25 cents.
I think the bridge tolls could be.
So maybe if you were mayor, I might say, I have faith in Sal Albanese. Yeah. But once you're not mayor, that's going to be looked at. Forget the 25 cents. It's going to be $1. Then it's going to be $2. Then it's going to be $2.50. Then it's going to go up, and it'll be another way of just picking our pocket. And at the same time, I think the Verrazano bridge toll will go up.
The Verrazano bridge toll under the plan that I think is viable will drop 35%. You'll have a 35% reduction, which I think is a big deal on the Whitestone as well, and the Throgsneck. That's a significant amount of savings for those people.
Well,
and also,
as a person who crosses that bridge every day, I'm more than willing to look at your plan.
Okay.
Because I think something certainly has to be done.
Please review it. I mean, and the other thing,
and I'm sure every other Staten Islander out there who goes across the Verrazano Bridge would love a 35% reduction.
Well, I mean, and certainly as an Islander now, I would love it myself. I think that we can do a lot of things to save money in this city and manage the city more efficiently. And these are just a couple of my proposals.
You have anything for the homeless?
Yes, the homeless. First of all, I'm against building 90 shelters. It makes no sense. They're poorly run. The homeless situation is the worst it's ever been under this mayor. I want to build housing. For example, 30% of the people in homeless shelters are families, and they work. So why are we subsidizing everybody that goes into homeless shelters? Let's prioritize the people that can actually subsidize their own rent. So I would make them a priority. I would also discourage people from coming into shelters, because some people do come into shelters to get free housing. So, and they don't work, and I would kind of discourage people from coming. They're living with relatives, for example, right? So they figure, I want to get a free apartment. They'll go into the shelter system. The shelter system then pays their rent. I want to prioritize the people that work. I ran into a woman in Manhattan the other day who's in a hotel. We're paying like $300 a day in this hotel for her and her child. And she works at McDonald's and she works at Burger King, 2 jobs, and she can't afford to pay the rent. So somebody like that, I would say, hey, we're already paying $300 a month, $300 a day to keep this woman in a homeless hotel. Let's subsidize her rent, and she subsidizes her own rent.
That's 50% less.
So that the de Blasio approach to homelessness is a disaster, because we'll never get out from under. You can't encourage people to come into the shelters to get free care. Some people obviously are mentally ill. They have drug abuse problems. That's something that we need to address at the shelter system, and also build more. There's supportive housing in the city. We need to build more of that, where you have multi-level services out there that can help these folks. The city's severely mentally ill, are not getting any help. We're spending $1 billion under de Blasio, and those people are not being impacted. I don't know if you travel in Manhattan a lot. I was in Penn Station the other day. I was dodging mentally ill people on the streets of the city. We need to get them some help. And in order to do that, you've got to have good outreach teams to bring them in and get them on their medication. Because when they're on meds, some of these people are actually function. So better management, prioritize people that work and are in shelters. We have people that are school crossing guards that are traffic enforcement agents that are in shelters. I mean, that makes no sense. Let's subsidize some of that, and also de Blasio's rezonings in some of these neighborhoods like Harlem and Crown Heights. They're making those areas unaffordable. So people that are earning $30,000 a year, $35,000 a year are winding up in shelters. The landlords are driving them out.
So the city is gentrifying their own
Exactly. That's what they're doing, Sam. And that's why de Blasio is running into problems all over the city. In East Harlem the other day, he had a town hall meeting, people were up in arms because they don't want the area rezoned, because they realize eventually they're going to be forced out of their own neighborhoods. So you got to keep those neighborhoods affordable, and I've got a plan to do that. Here's one of my other proposals. You may not like this, but a pied-à-terre tax. 15% of Manhattan real estate is owned by overseas investors. They park their money there, they warehouse apartments. Same thing is happening in Brooklyn. Chinese money, Russian money. I want to charge them a higher rate of taxes because they're not city residents. Nobody in the city is going to pay a higher tax, and put that into building more housing, affordable housing.
Don't we kind of do that already? And we do it, or we don't do it with New Jersey. If you work in New York, you're supposed to pay New York state tax or New York City taxes because you're using our services if you're calling an ambulance or something like that. So if we recognize the border from New York to New Jersey, why can't we recognize the border from New York to China, to Russia, or anywhere else?
Well, London just passed it, and so did Vancouver. I'm a big believer in it, and I think it's politically viable because nobody in New York City is going to pay a higher tax. It's going to be folks that are parking their money here. The Barclays Center in Brooklyn. I mean, that's big. That's Chinese money. I mean, it's overseas investors are really buying up the city, and if they want to, they'll continue to invest here. But let's tax them and use that money to keep people in their homes.
So what I'm hearing you saying is you want to have a tax on non-citizens or non-New Yorkers who are investing heavily in New York real estate, and foreign investors who are taking that money, and it leaves the country.
Well, it doesn't leave the country. They keep what they're doing is they realize New York City real estate is very valuable, right? So they buy condos. These are condos from $5 million and up, and that's where the tax would kick in. And basically, they park their money there. They very rarely come in and use those places, and they want you to appreciate instead of keeping it in their home countries. It's a great tool for them to appreciate their money. It's a great investment. But if they want to do that, it should be taxed, and let New York City residents benefit from it.
All right, so let's talk one more topic: Rikers Island.
Yes.
What can you say about what's going on there?
Well, first thing I want to do is reduce the violence there. I mean,
well, right now it's scheduled to be closed, or the mayor wants to close it. And he wants to put prisons on, in all the boroughs.
I don't think that's what I want to do right now is, I talked to a lot of correction officers about this, is stop the violence there. The violence is out of control. More slashings, more stabbings than in the 1990s when there were twice the number of inmates. So I don't want. The mayor's plan is not.
But you have to help me with this, and most people, myself, and at home, do not understand. If you're in a prison, how can it be that there's violence, that there's drugs, that there's weapons? Who controls the prison?
Well, the corrections officers, who do a pretty good job by and large.
It's a tough job.
It is. The problem that we're having right now is that they can't isolate certain prisoners, and de Blasio's administration has placed so much pressure on the correctional officers and the hierarchy that if you're committing repeated attacks against other inmates or even correction officers, they can't isolate you. They're basically banned the isolation. That's what's causing most of the problem. Most of the inmates do their time and leave. A small group cause most of the chaos. I was a dean in a high school, right? I walk into a classroom, one kid could disrupt the entire class. So that's what's happening in Rikers Island. They used to be able to isolate them. I don't like the word solitary confinement because that's really not what happens. But a lot of the activists, which de Blasio bought into it, have basically convinced de Blasio not to isolate prisoners between 18 and 21 years of age. So if I stab you, we're both inmates, nothing's going to happen to me. I'm going to be in the same area. So so when you talk about Rikers Island, 10 years from now, he won't even be in office. But he could put the wheels in motion to close Rikers Island. The wheels are going to be difficult to put into motion because right now there's no facility that's being targeted for a prison around the city. And he's also put certain criteria. There has to be 5,000 prisoners or less in order to close Rikers. That means hopefully we can get to that point. But at this point in time, I as the mayor, I will appoint a top-notch correction commission, and I have a few in mind because I was in the public safety committee of the city council, and stop the violence as we in place right now because it's really out of control. And then I want to close half the facilities that are decrepit there. They're half the facilities on Rikers Island are falling apart, because we have enough room now, and really rebuild and modernize the better facilities and take women and juveniles off the island. It's about 1,000 more inmates. Women, we have room in the Brooklyn House of Detention. We have women. We have room in a couple other facilities where we take juveniles and women right off the island, reduce the population dramatically, and if down the road, we have, 2,000-3,000 prisoners or 4,000 prisoners, and we find, like in Queens, for example, yesterday, I don't know if you saw this, 7 council members have said that they are willing to accept building a new facility around Queens Boulevard, where the courthouses are. They said we're willing to take it. So if they want to do that in Queens County and we want to move some inmates, I don't have a problem with that. So de Blasio plan is unrealistic at this point. It's just a political punt because he won't be around in 10 years.
All right. Well, again, Sal, thank you very much for coming in, and I really appreciate it. This is Sam Pirozzolo with Right Bites TV saying until next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sam.